Hi guys, welcome back to my show, My Steps to Sobriety, with me, your host, Stefan Neff. And today is another fantastic day, like all of these days nowadays, to have a guest on my show. And this guest is Marc Yaffee. Marc is from the United States, and he is a sadness prevention coordinator. And I love that description too. I think it is beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And we need more people like you out there, Marc, no doubt. So welcome onto my show.
Oh, it's great to be here. Yes, I am SPC approved, the Sadness Prevention Coordination Council. So we're just making this all up, everybody. You know this, Stefan. He's got the wheels turning. I just talking to him before the show. He goes, what do I call you? No one wants to stay stand-up comedian. Is just so stay alone out of one of these guys. But yeah, Sadness Prevention Coordinator.
And it is amazing. So Marc and I, we met each other on a forum about podcasts, and where we both learned more about the podcast world, which was new to me then. So, and Marc has sent out a Media One sheet, which is basically just a sort of a description of himself. And I immediately got attracted to his story, which is a story of transformation and a story of hope and of not giving up and believing in yourself and going out there, kicking ass, chipping away on that big block of marble until you have created that reality of the vision of the little dream that you once had. And the difference between a dream and a vision is really action. The dream, if you don't do much about it, well, it will just stay like that. But if you keep chipping away, suddenly you find yourself in places that you never thought possible. And that is so true for recovery, with alcohol, or recovery from any addiction, with regards to dealing with your problems. Hell, with regards to gardening, as the principle of the 5-minute gardener. Every day, do 5 minutes in the garden. Not more, not less. 5 minutes in the garden. Hell, after a month, your garden will look like you don't know it anymore. And it's the same with our lives. And no doubt, Marc, you would have had to work hard. So tell us a little bit about your life. Quite a while ago, before you're the sadness prevention coordinator.
Well, I was born in Los Angeles, California, to a teen mother. She was with my father for about a year, got pregnant, and at that time, it wasn't common for single mothers, so she decided to give me up for adoption, and ended up in a great home with my mother, Lucy, a Mexican-American woman, and my dad, Bud, a young Jewish man from Utica, New York. They've been together for 66 years next week.
Oh, beautiful.
66 wedding. Yeah, as we say in America, they've been long enough. They've been married so long, their marriage can collect Social Security, which is our retirement. So that was my genesis from the beginning. I found out, I always knew I was adopted. But I didn't meet my birth mother till I was 26. I was working for the state of California at the time. This is in the 80s, so pre-computers, not a lot of, social media, no social media. I got a FedEx package and a handwritten letter from my birth mother, Linda. And it was pretty amazing because we met about a month later, and she shared so many characteristics, her posture, her eating habits, her mannerisms, and it's amazing to see the balance, between your environment and your genetics. And I certainly feel there's something to that, and I know especially when it comes to addiction, there's those environmental triggers, there's the genetic triggers, and fortunately, I think I had a good basis. I was able to avoid a lot of pitfalls in life because I had a good balance between those two backgrounds.
And if you think about it, the home in which you ended up, the mixture between the Jewish faith and the Mexican chupacabra kind of women, from very homely to exploding volcano in no time, would have been a very interesting yin and yang kind of situation at home.
Definitely.
Was your mum quite?
She still tries to rule with an iron fist. She's 91 and she's still she's gets in there. What happened? What's that on your face? What did you? She's still looking for that perfection, but I mean, in a loving way. I mean, my dad couldn't be more humble and gracious, and she definitely was the. She definitely was the dictator for life. He was a puppet president. Let's put it that way.
Beautiful, beautiful. Did comedy play a role in your household? Did they talk jokes or?
You know what? This is crazy. My dad. I don't think I have ever heard my dad tell a joke in his life. Now he's a funny guy. He'll laugh, and he's not a storyteller, joke teller. My mom a little bit. So, but we always grew up. We had Bill Cosby records in the house and Fat Albert and I was really big into American sitcoms. So I came up in the 60s and 70s. I'm 59 now. So we had this entertainer, Flip Wilson. I really like variety shows. I loved the writing of shows like All in the Family and Good Times. And Norman Lear, who is still with us. I think he's 96 years old now, the producer of these shows. And I always had an interest in writing. I always loved things that make me laugh. But I was a serious kid, with Catholic school and just, nose to the grindstone. And I had a couple little flashes of entertainment. In second grade, I got to play St. Patrick in the second grade play. Evidently, someone discovered my theatrical talents, and then that lay dormant for another 30 years. So.
Oh, excellent. Well, okay, so your school, Catholic school, where not too many jokes are being told, at least officially. But at one stage you would be finished. You graduated. What came thereafter?
Well, I went to college in San Diego, University of San Diego, which meant I spent a lot of time partying in Tijuana, Mexico, to be honest. So.
You and so many others, please. And it doesn't matter Tijuana or anywhere in Heidelberg or in wherever. You're a student, you party. End of the story.
Right. So we got through that. I got a degree in international relations. So I wanted to be a diplomat, and then I got back into the writing. I'd done some college sports writing at the college newspaper. My buddy and I started writing some screenplays. We're trying to sell those. And,
cool.
I didn't really get too far. We had some interest. Hey, right, we want to see some more. That. But I didn't dig in. This is one of my. I tell people, hey, you may make some mistakes. It'll cost you a few years, but you still have that chance at recovering. Instead of getting into that. Back then, that's when they had the mail rooms, and you read the script, and you would network. I didn't do that. I just tried to do it from the outside. I've always been a bit of that outsider. I think that has to do with being adopted. So my other friend talked me into taking a job with the state of California. I used to be a Department of Motor Vehicles driving examiner. So when you turn 16, which is our driving age, I was the guy with the clipboard in the car giving you the test. So went from that, fast forward 14 years later, I said, I got to get out of here. My buddies talked me into opening a driving school, and we also taught traffic school classes for people who had received traffic violations. You could go to a class. People thought I was funny. So they're like, oh, you should do comedy. And then I started trying to write jokes, be funnier in class, tried to recruit some stand-up comics, ended up taking a comedy class. And here I am 21 years into the 50-year comedy plan.
Fantastic. Fantastic. How do you become an examiner? Do you go through your own training? In the sense of what I'm after is really the stunt driving, the bodyguard driving, the chauffeur driving, the hardcore offensive driving skills. Is that part of your DMV, how to go about it?
Well, the examiner portion, when I worked for the state, we
Yeah.
pretty much, you took the civil service tests, got on a list to interview, and then they took us to a class in Sacramento, our state capital. I was living in California,
Yeah.
and they just trained us for like 3 months, and then you went from, we'd go out and test each other, be in the car, and so I'd always be the one messing up a little bit to see what they, and then
Same with me. I was,
and then
no, sorry, you keep going.
No, and then we ended up in the car where we had to take the student out, and the guy was in the back watching us. So it was like, and the poor kid, he's got 2 driving examiners in the car, you know?
Yeah, well, that doesn't end good typically. Good on them. Oh, well,
but I ended up working in this town of 3,000 people with no stoplight. So it was a pretty kickback job. You know, I worked in Santa Barbara area for a while. Then I decided I want to move to Northern California. And I get there, there's no computers in the office. This is 1988, something like they're typing on typewriters. All the other offices in California had computers. I'm like, it's like a Back to the Future episode. And you know, the characters there, and people say, oh, you must have a ton of material about DMV. I said, no, I kind of PTSD and beat it out. So I don't really talk about it. Yeah. But after, you know, it did give me I think it gave me a lot of repressed comedy and desire to create, because you're in such a structured environment, you know, to just break out of that was awesome. We didn't have these kind of outlets. Maybe back then I would have started a driving examiner podcast or written a blog, but, you know, I mean, there's so much opportunity now. And I love the technological innovations just to be able to do this. You know, we're halfway around the world and we're sitting in your living room.
Exactly. That's amazing, though. I mean, if I listen to your story, it's very clearly that there was this fire burning inside, that there was this drive to there's this rebel that was sort of trying to knock on the door from the inside, go on, where can I get out here? And you found that outlet in your comedy. And I guess to a certain degree, you make others happy, and which makes you happy. I think that is sort of a common theme, isn't it? That comedians are often not the happiest people themselves deep inside. Many comedians, unfortunately, struggle with mental health problems. And I actually don't know if the statistics, I don't know what the story is. I certainly know that the doctors have got a huge problem with burnout and mental health problems and addiction, etc. And suicide and broken marriages, etc. You name it, we have got it. I don't know, what's the story amongst comedians?
I did see an article several years ago that said there was a higher incidence of mental illness, and I believe or substance abuse. So, I mean, it doesn't surprise me. First of all, you know, it's somewhat of a renegade, antisocial activity. At least this is how it started out. You know, in the 70s and 80s when the comedy clubs came around. I mean, we had the old stars from the 30s and 40s, the Jack Bennys and the Bob Hopes. And they were that corporate, you know, came up in the movie studios. And then, you know, it's a pre-World War or Vietnam War and Summer Love. And after, you know, post-Vietnam War and Summer Love, it was kind of like, you know, free for all here in America. Like, well, I want to go do this and I'm going to do this and screw the man. I'm going to say whatever I want to. And, you know, so we went the kind of that Lenny Bruce, Richard Pryor transformation. So there was a lot of guys that came up, and there was a lot of money. I started later. Like I said, I started when I was 37. But in the 80s and 90s, there was a lot of money thrown around. A lot of people were paid in drugs. And so it took down a lot of folks. It's kind of a sad thing, you know, during comedy clubs. So there's always booze. There was always coke around for these guys. So unfortunately, you know, you combine the substance abuse and mental illness and a lot of lack of structure. So, you know, some people thrived and got through it and became successful. And, you know, sadly, you know, like you say, because the pre-existing conditions, there's a number of folks that, you know, it didn't end well for him, but thank goodness I started when I did. I don't know, you know, that I wouldn't have gotten swallowed up in that, and I was a little more mature when I started doing comedy. It was more of a business to me. I mean, I wanted to do it; it was a hobby, but I understood the process rather than just go out there and just you know, flamethrowing, diving all the way in. I kind of took it step by step and tried to be strategic about it.
Oh, fantastic. But how are you strategic in a town of 3,000 people with no stop sign?
Exactly.
How the hell did you get out of debt? How did you get your first gig?
Well, like I said, I said I need comedy. I was teaching these classes. I was trying to expand my business. That I need more instructors, and I'll get comedian instructors because people want to pay extra for the comedy traffic school. And then I call. So I start. It's back in the phone book. Back in the phone book days. So I'm some sort of comedy producer, and I call this lady says, "Go to this Laughs Unlimited Comedy Club in Sacramento. They they have a class there, and you meet some comedians and." Or something. So what do you mean comedy class? So I went and there was a lady that wrote for Ellen DeGeneres' show. Her name is Karen Anderson, and another friend of mine, Del Van Dyke. They were teaching this class. I said, well, I'll sit in on the class. Because I had to drive I drove 2 hours and 2.5 hours just to get there. Because I lived way out in the middle of nowhere in the mountains of Northern California. And I sat through the class. They said, okay, after the class, there's an open mic. So, well, I'm here. I guess I should just get up there and try it. Why not? All these other people are signing up. What I got. So I think there was 9 students and 7 audience members. Maybe it was on a Wednesday night, and I got up there and I started thinking about it because I said I'm going to take the class. So I'd written a couple ideas out, and I think I did maybe 3 minutes, but it was the best feeling. I got up there. Not that everyone was laughing, but I remember 2 ladies specifically in the middle of the audience where they just got the biggest chuckle out of a couple of my jokes, and I said I got to do this again. It's just. It just hit me. I was like, "Oh, I'm coming back." I'm taking this class. and my wife at the time, and she's like, "Well, you're going to take a class. You're going to this 4-hour round trip, and then you got the business to run." And so I would just start going back and forth. And I didn't know there was no real there's no career training book you read first. You just start winging it. But the instructor. He took a liking to me, and probably because I had a car and gas and a valid license, and we went up to Oregon, and I was touring around doing shows in bars where I had 10 minutes of material, and I was supposed to be doing 30 minutes of material. But he said, "Don't worry, I'll cover for you." Right? So you get these little breaks along the way, and things kind of unfold. Where it's like, "Oh, I guess I'm supposed to keep going." Roadblock. Oh no, well, there's a crevice there. I'll call through that crevice. Oh yeah, river. Well, there's a little bridge. I'll hang on there and just kind of cobbled this career together, but it's not been a traditional one because I didn't start or move to like an epicenter of comedy like Los Angeles or New York. I mean, I've been down there, I've done stuff, but I didn't immerse myself in that situation. And I still look back and say, well, on some days I'm like, well, I really needed to dive in. The other times I'm like, well, I'm glad I did it my way. And it's brought me, I think some more peace that I would have had if I'd been down there. I never liked that whole, grind and have to kiss up and, network constantly, which is good and bad. I mean, if you have people skills, and you can use them to your advantage, great. But, comedy's got a lot of introverts too. So we like our own space. Yeah.
And it's hard. I mean, I feel you. I feel you, my friend, because for me as a doctor, it is very, very strange to market myself. When you go as an author out there or as a podcast or YouTube channeler, you become an influencer. You want to put yourself out there. And that is very much against the grain of me. Maybe I'm a bit more introvert there myself, but also against the grain of my profession, because advertisement of yourself in New Zealand is not allowed. So there are very strict rules there as far as my service as a doctor goes. Yet here I am as an author and as a guest of a show, very different things. And I feel the resistance in me too, to just go out there and say, "Hey, here I am," and approaching everyone. Something in me doesn't want to do that. So I can see where you were coming from. And as an introvert, it is bloody hard.
And you come, like you said, from a structured environment. You're medicine, I was government. And to go for that, so just, hey, you call the shots, you make, you paint the picture, you make all the decisions, whereas, you have protocol and structure. And,
True.
True. So maybe we're both in rebellion. I don't know.
Please. I always was. Always was. Nowadays, I'm structuring my rebellion a little bit more strategically.
You're a conscious rebel now. Yeah.
Now, we were both saying it is a challenge. Here you were working the government job. At one stage, you actually left to do full-time comedy.
Well, actually, there was a transition because, like I said, I started a driving school and traffic school, so I was able to do that.
Oh, I see what you mean.
And then I could start saying, well, you know what? I'll do these students Monday through Thursday, then Friday I'm going to drive to Astoria, Oregon, and make $50 for a 12-hour drive, and then Saturday I'm going to make another $40 to go to Winnemucca, Nevada. But it's just like you get once you get that. I had you don't realize it's not even about the money at that point. It's like, well, I'm getting paid. No, you're losing money, but you're doing what you love, and suddenly the economics of it just kind of goes by the wayside.
Yeah. And that drives you, isn't it? It's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. But I mean, in order to do so, you need to be disciplined. I think, yes, there is, of course, this hothead and you want to throw out your jokes, but having driven 8 hours to your gig, you might have had some road rage incident in between. You're coming there, you're absolutely dead tired. You just had a phone call from someone who gave you a full broadside, and you're now 10 minutes before the gig. You want to strangle someone. You want to actually to rip his head off and do things with his torso that we should not really talk about. The bottom line is, how do you change yourself? What is your process what's your mask? How do you put that mask on?
Well, I think at that one point you just get to that, like, okay, now I'm at work. I always get out the set list and start writing down and trying to memorize my jokes. Or when I was early on, get that napkin. Once I started writing things down, I was just able to pretty much shut that off, which is hard to believe in my ADD brain. And that would just right there, you become, here's the material. Okay, there's the stage, there's the audience. You just have that little triangle to worry about. And I think it's you don't even know. I always tell people, it's like one time I got food poisoning. I don't even know how the brain works sometimes. We stopped at some sleazy state line casino somewhere, ate a steak. My buddy said, "You're going to be sick. That steak's way too rare." My little bravado. I'm fine. We're eating at 1 a.m. We're going from one show to another. No business, just terrible food. And the next day we were golfing, which I don't do very well. We were just having fun. I got sick, ran off the golf course. I was sick for about 5 hours straight. And then he's like, well, if you can't do the time, I understand, but you're not getting paid. And I'm like, oh no, I'll do it. I got up there, and for that 30 minutes, no trace. My stomach was fine. I'd been sick continuously in the bathroom. And it's like you go into this other world, and then immediately after I got off the stage, ran to the bathroom. And I was sick all night, almost died. So
brilliant.
I think, it's just unconscious. I don't even think it's a conscious discipline. I mean, for some there is. I'm not sure I have that. I mean, I think I do to a point, but there's something just physiologically that can take over there. Your body says, I have to do this. And it's like you just see that's where I'm headed. And it's like they got the plane on autopilot, or the Tesla's going up the highway, and you don't really have much choice. We might make a couple lane changes, but you're committed. And I think it's just once you make that commitment, this is what I'm doing, and I can step aside, separate myself momentarily, and then I'll go back to that when it's over. And thank goodness, probably like a surgery or a procedure, in that time. Your brain, you probably the same thing where you can just focus, and then you go back to like, oh, where's the chaos? I'm done. Let's dive back in. And I think we all have that ability as human beings. Some of us shorter periods than others, and that's why I love the comedy. The discipline of comedy is so different than, say, the discipline of medicine or law enforcement. I mean, I have the bandwidth, but I have the ability to make a mistake and make fun of myself and keep going. You don't have that ability when you're dealing with a patient or a medical situation. And so I really feel blessed in that I can find something that's like, hey, you know what? Even in the moment you're making a mistake, I can make it right. No one's getting hurt. Whereas, I was so used to, like, with student drivers, give them a wrong direction and we both get killed. So I mean, to me, that's one of the most cathartic things about it is the freedom to fail, basically. And I've done that many times on stage.
But same here as doctors. It is, yes, 10% of our work is hardcore life and death. Okay, wrong cut and yeah, patient dies. The other 90% is being out there, talking to people, and doing clinics, doing all these kind of things. And we do make mistakes as well. And I think that we are increasingly recognizing that it is so important to accept that and to understand that you can't be 100% all the time. And we are, as doctors, most doctors are bloody perfectionists. You should see it. I mean, I remember one meeting where a colleague of mine had dealt with an incredibly complex case, and the case didn't end well. And there was a tiny, tiny, tiny bit that potentially could have been criticized, but really only potentially, because in the whole fog of war of that emergency, bloody hell. So he did actually very well, but you should have seen himself beating himself up in the meeting when he realized that, oh, that potentially, if I had just spent now half an hour thinking about that more in depth, completely forgetting that the whole thing was a disaster as it was. But it was that self-flagellation, oh my God, I made a mistake. Oh my God. And it's so destructive. It's so destructive. And
I'm hoping someone writes a book like Escape from Perfection or something, because like you said, that quest for perfection is very destructive, and it's hurt us all in our times, you know.
And it is, we all make mistakes. And if you then can turn that around and make something positive out of that, that's the most beautiful thing. And I'm sure that your audience, that there will have been situations where you really stuffed up a joke, and then you look at someone in the audience and you then play on that and keep going with doing that. And that rescues the whole thing. Yes, you have made a mistake, but the audience is still laughing because you carry them on and bring them back into where you want to go.
I'll never forget, I was doing a show one time when it wasn't really even my mistake. There was a young man in his 20s who was a special needs gentleman. And he was not quite understanding everything, but he was having the best time at the show, but he would laugh at all the wrong moments. It was just so beautiful. He would just, it would be the setup to the joke. And everyone's like, what's going on? We're just laughing when he laughed. So everyone had the best time. They acknowledged him, what he was, and they acknowledged me, and with the situation, I was like, you know what? This is beautiful. This is not even about me. It's about this guy's just having the best time, you know, and you get those moments, and it's like
beautiful.
It's just like you feel really blessed where you can just say, man, that was really fun to experience. You know, it wasn't even a standing ovation or anything. It was just a moment, just like okay, I'll always remember that one.
Yeah. And that's the power of the moment, isn't it? You have you had the choice there. You could have become really pissed off. You could have become really angry, which then would have basically put your whole delivery at an edge.
Is this your son? Can you calm him down? Quiet. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Get him out of here. Yeah. You know,
and that would have been the end of it. Even if you then would have told the 10 best jokes of all times, I doubted that the audience would have been with you. But you showing the human face, you show him, you managing that situation was the most beautiful thing you could have done.
Audiences are pretty forgiving if you are, but if you're, you know, if they see a comedian turning on people, they can turn, and rightly so. You know, they can. It's especially when you get a heckler. I mean, you guys are so polite in New Zealand. You probably don't get that too much. But you know, you get a drunk person, and or you just get someone that's having a bad day and they don't like your joke, and especially in America, we get some very sensitive times here, and everyone's just touchy and just yell out, and you know, and if you had, you know, if they say something inappropriate or out of turn and you smack them too hard, you lose the audience. If you're too soft and they say, oh, this guy's got look at, he's taking over the show, and what's wrong with this comedian? If you hit him too hard, you lose the audience. So I love it because it's like you're on this tightrope the whole time, and if you can pull it off, it's like, oh, okay, that was good. I got to do that again.
Interesting.
One more time. Yeah, you're ready for that next. It's okay. Next show, bring it on.
And it's hard, isn't it? How do you deal with criticism? And especially, how do you deal with criticism that is thrown at you very publicly, like here in a room where there are 100 people there? So tricky.
And I haven't had that much, it's the in-person shows. I've had some, really bad shows, but not where people are like, boo, get them off the stage type thing. Well, you might have one heckler. More of it's the industry and you take it as a lack of respect, and people are like, okay, why didn't I get picked for this show or that show or did this showcase? That's the ones that are really, you gotta, when you get to me, when I get to the audience, that's almost my safe space. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, I'm back to the normal people now. I'm not dealing with TV executives or producers that didn't meet their need exactly or their demographic. So at the end of the day, it's that contact with the audience, it trumps all that. I'll take that over the business end anytime, but the human contact. But so unfortunately, you got to do both. It's still a business.
Well, that's right, isn't it? That's please. I feel the same. Give me my patience, and I'm a happy man. The politics and the bullshit that goes on behind the scenes is something that can drive you nuts. And yeah, it is. But I think everyone who's listening or viewing us out there will feel exactly the same. Doesn't matter if you're a mechanic in a business or if you're a comedian or a doctor. It is. If we could just do it without the people, it would be just nice. But we shouldn't forget 1 in 10 people out there have got a personality disorder. And many personality disorders are not so nice. In other words, the people.
But you're saying that's identified, or is that just an estimate of overall?
No, that's pretty much. If you were to take the DSM, so the medical book that gives you the diagnosis, and put it onto each and every person, then you would think probably about 1 in 10, and probably 1 in 100 is a psychopath / sociopath. So that's quite interesting. So there are some nasty pieces of work out there, and they often masquerade well, but they let rip at the worst possible moment, and that might be in your show. Or there might be.
Again, some people don't like the fact that they're not getting the attention. You have the jealous boyfriend. I'm not hitting on your girlfriend, or she's laughing at me, and he's funny, isn't he? Well, what about me? It's just, you don't know.
Really?
People after they're having I mean, there's just, we're just, I don't know. It's the human spirit to me. On one hand, we're so resilient. On the other hand, we can just become so quickly so frail. It just that, if we get, it's almost like I used to do martial arts for a while. You get that person just right, just knock them right over with very little force, so, mine is I'm just trying not to get knocked over, especially this we're a little bit behind you guys obviously at the Corona pandemic, and now I'm looking at our Americans. We're getting banned from going to Europe and other countries. So I work on cruise ships. So for the foreseeable future, I'm just like, well, I don't think I'm going to be able to work, if I want to. So it's really the dynamic has really changed, and how I'm trying to approach life. And it's not so much preparing for shows, but it's still trying to be working on being more present and trying to really work on my writing and realize, hey, it's really my energy and my thought process has to if I can't get that under control, this thing can just sweep me up, and you can really be in a bad way, because so many people are dealing with financial, emotional turmoil.
Isn't it? And we need to reinvent ourselves. This is a time in human history that we will look back on as bad or worse than the 1918 pandemic. We will kill millions and millions and millions of people. The figures that we see now are bullshit, absolute bullshit. Whatever you read, make that times 10 or times 100 probably. And whilst that might sound Oh, come on, you're exaggerating. Well, think of all the refugee camps, the poor areas around the world where no one will ever test you, where people are dying like flies.
Yeah, you have villages, you have people
Exactly.
living indigenous people in jungles. They're not going to be counted. These,
Exactly. And
there's no one to know.
yeah. We had 1918. We had here in New Zealand. It got hit pretty bad, and it was the indigenous people who got hammered, the Maori. And you've got traditional meeting houses, and they essentially were bringing the influenza people, the bodies in. They had to change their tradition because they would normally kiss the dead and then pay their respects and then bury them. Ultimately, no more kissing, come in, hello, and then next to the marae was a mass grave where there would be, just the next one in, the next one in, the next one in. That was how bad it got. And that is something that got forgotten here. It is sort of known amongst Maori elders, but it's not something that is put out there. But that was the reality in 1918, 1919 here for us, and in many, many, many parts of the world. We have forgotten that. We had the blissful nothingness, or we actually had some pandemics in the last 100 years, but they were 1956.
Popping up.
That's right, exactly. No one gave really much damn about it. But now we are suddenly hammered, and we will see a change in the way our world is. And that applies for comedy just as much as it applies to every aspect of our life. But having said that, people will still do stupid things. We've still got leaders who want to fight wars. So they send soldiers still across the globe to some little known place where they lose their lives. And you actually have got a history there, haven't you? You actually have been there, being on a flatbed truck, getting your head shaved, I think.
Yeah, so it's a little odd to talk about doing comedy in the middle of a war zone, but here in the United States, we have Armed Forces Entertainment, which is one branch of the military that puts on live shows. There's also USO, which is kind of a semi-government group with more well-known comedians. In fact, we did a show one time. This is during the Iraq War, 2005. We went to Bahrain, which is pretty much like 15 minutes by cruise missile to Iraq at the Navy headquarters. And we show up there like 2 a.m. We stayed off the base. It was really unsettling because usually we have American personnel pick us up and we stay on the base, and there's like a lot of times there's a bodyguard. There's nothing. Guy just showed up in a van, so only spoke Arabic, and here we are, these two knuckleheads. It's 2 a.m. or time change. We're all discombobulated, and he just drops us off at a hotel. I think, and then we show up the base the next day, and Robin Williams was there with a couple of actors and the Dallas Cowboys cheerleader. They're doing this big show the same day. We're going to do our little comedy show up in the food court. Yeah. So,
what the hell?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, great to bump into Robin Williams. I mean,
I didn't get to meet him that time though. He was under heavy. I did meet him later. I met him a couple times in the Bay Area. He used to live up by San Francisco. He's a great guy, really, truly a gentle soul, and he's but just nonstop. I think that was, really almost a blessing and a curse when he was just, almost brain just where you get to that, you can't stop creating and wind down. But leading up to the next tour was, or I think it was 2 years later, I went to Iraq, and we ended up in a Marine forward operating base. They'd had some casualties like 2 weeks before. Morale was super low. So I said, we got to do something different instead of just doing the regular jokes. So I get this idea. I said, I should shave my head. My hair was like this long, right? So my buddy's ex-Navy guy goes, we can find some clippers. It's a Marine base. Everybody's got clippers. That's all they do is cut each other's hair. So they shoot people and they shoot and shave. That's
right.
Yeah. So we got a couple of clippers, and one of the sergeants came on a flatbed. I was doing the jokes. And I got some special guests, and they come up. They got the razor, and I'm telling jokes, And then they got one guy, one side shaven, the other one. And then I just had a fistful of hair I held up. They all went crazy. And I was like, yeah, that was a fun moment. Yeah. But I didn't bring any protectant for my head. It was like 130 degrees. This is Iraq, like in August. So I had a little bit of scalp burn for the rest of the trip. Yeah.
Yeah. Welcome to my world.
You wear a hat. You put on some screen. You're prepared. You know how that works.
Oh, wow.
So that was yeah.
How were the soldiers? Do they appreciate you coming?
Oh,
there?
probably more than in any other shows, because they're out there for 9-12 month deployments at the time, and haven't seen family and just bored, and there's repetition, and so we didn't even have to be that fun. I don't even think my shows are that good, but they were good enough. These guys were happy to see us. I was still growing as a comic. That was 12 years ago. I'd think back some of the stuff I did then. I was like, oh, that wasn't that funny. But there was a way I had to improvise. Like they'd have a show schedule. It was 9 a.m. in the cafeteria because they were going out on a mission. And then they said, hey, we got some guys over in the mechanics bay. They couldn't make it because they're working on a truck. Will you go talk to them? We ended up doing a show in a little tool shed on a bench, and so you just try to be present and just roll with it. And I was just like, yes, let's just do it. That was my whole thing. As long as we were speaking, I trust them. They were keeping us safe. Yeah, we'll do that. It's fine.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Wow. This would have been very much an experience, and I'm in awe that you had the guts to go out there. And it's a very honored tradition amongst comedians, isn't it? I mean, there is, if you read any not novel, any memoir from a soldier in Vietnam or from a soldier in the Second World War, they will always talk about the moments when someone came along and gave a show, and it was a very memorable thing for their deployment, and it is actually very, very beautiful that this tradition continues, and that there is at least a bit of recognition of the soldiers.
In a way, it's sad that we got to go out. We got to go perform for troops that are overseas fighting a war that we don't want to be fighting. But for whatever reason, they're enlisted as a volunteer or whatever. Hey, they didn't make the decision. They're just trying to do the best they can, and you get some people really hung out with some gentlemen and Marines in Japan that had just gotten back from Afghanistan, Iraq, and it was a lot of mental carnage, sadly, where they just started to spill in their guts to us, and they felt comfortable, telling what happened, and sure, there's many things they didn't share, but you just feel for this at that young age, and I feel so blessed that I'm able to do this and tell a joke and walk away. No one's shoot at me when I'm up on stage telling jokes. It's a relatively safe career, and I certainly feel like, hey, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to try to do it to the best of my abilities and have the most fun I can. I think if I'm having fun, it's better. It's the audience knows that, and it's contagious. We know, you're around people like yourself. You get this good energy, and you can't help but have some positive energy coming back at you. So I think that's, whether we're comedians or physicians or mechanics, I think every one of us can make someone else feel better, whether it's a joke or smile or story,
so
whatever.
Important. So important, isn't it? And that's where I strongly believe into the notion that you want to be courteous and nice to everyone, from the CEO to the cleaner. And I try to treat everyone in the same way. And it is so beautiful to know that I put a smile on their face, and that smile is honest. And maybe my little smile, my little friendly good morning, might actually just pick them up enough to get on with their life when they're really down and out. And that is actually a very powerful notion, a very powerful feeling that I embrace, and that I hope this kind of the picture of one smile, putting a smile on someone else and then smile on someone else, this little notion of one little deed actually does not get punished, but just makes the flow-on effect.
Well,
I
that's
like
the one
that.
sad. That's the one sad thing that I do. There's so many sad things about this Corona pandemic, but in the States, we're still pretty much it's mandatory or voluntary masks. All over. I don't know where you guys are at, but you can't see people smile anymore, and it's
Mm,
this is super disconnecting. You know what I mean?
isn't it? Isn't
And
it?
you
Yeah.
just have this, this because so much comes out of the mouth and facial expression, and
Mm.
you can't smile with your eyes. Maybe we'll learn how to do that. Maybe we have to start.
The Remember, you're talking to a profession where the only thing we see is that. So we are actually quite used to
Yeah.
falling in love with eyes. But there are some damn good jokes out there. Some good memes where they say, "Please be careful who you fall in love with." And you see the mask and the most beautiful eyes, and then the mask comes down, and not such a beautiful face. So yeah, we need to be careful. That's the same with doctors and nurses. So we
Yeah.
believe in that. Having said that, 95% of communication is nonverbal. So you're so right. So therefore, that makes it hard. And we in New Zealand we have eradicated COVID. We have
I saw
not.
that.
Yeah. So we are so blessed.
Really great.
And
Yeah.
whilst
Well,
they have
you have real leadership there too. Your prime minister, she's done a great job, and your people. It's really the people are on board and say, "Hey, we're in this. We got to make this work." And we have this streak of independence and anti-government sentiment, and we have a conflicted executive who's not sure. He wants to be totally in charge, but then he wants to wash his hands and anything goes wrong. So when you don't have leadership, this is what we have. We got a lot of chaos. So hopefully, I don't know what'll change on it, but hopefully it will.
I think we are preaching to the choir, the two of us, if we now talk about the federal government. What about in your own state? How is it being run there?
Well, the he's been very proactive. Now it's a mandatory mask. They've had to scale back some of the openings, but this is Nevada. It's kind of Wild Westy. He had armed protesters showing up at his house outside, just threatening him. I will show you. And his name is Steve Sisolak. They call him Governor Sisolak. It's just to me, the man's. I can't imagine the stress you're going through. With the bankless. The states, there's no income coming into the state budget. There's cutting everywhere. Everyone's unhappy. People, and I just think, hey, thank you. And most people are grudgingly. I think they just see the numbers keep going up. So even there's less and less grumbling now. The anti-maskers are fewer and far between, but there's still some out there, and we have a neighbor. We have a neighbor, like a community website. And where people, post about lost dogs or whether of course, now it's all COVID. This is a sad thing we had to share with you real quick, not to get sidetracked. But a lady posted the other day, I was so disappointed. I went to Little Caesars Pizza. This is maybe 2 weeks ago, and none of the staff was wearing a mask. This is terrible. This is before then it became required. It was like 2 days before. I'm definitely not going to go back there again. And I'm going to talk to the ownership. And the guy said, "Oh, good for them. I'll be giving them my business. Government doesn't need to tell us how to live our lives." And it was like, you wear a seatbelt, you wear a helmet, and then you drive them the certain side of the road. It's and it's just you don't know what to do. It just makes you sad for humanity
For us, it is so bizarre to look from the outside into America and see this kind of fight between Second Amendment and First Amendment, and you just think,
Well, after you had the Moss shooting, it was what was it? A month later, guns were banned. The rifles.
But that's a completely different story, because the problem is that of the semi-automatic rifles, maybe a quarter ended up in the government's hands, and that is from competition shooters, etc. I was a competition shooter prior to that, and so we handed in our semi-automatic rifles. Guess where all the other 75% ended? There, we have armed single-handedly. We have armed our gangs with semi-automatics. No one wants
Yeah.
to talk about that. So
Yeah.
there are problems with knee-jerk reactions, and the problems that had
I
occurred
understand.
here. But
So wait, as a shooter, are you still able to have a competition semi-auto then, or
no,
not even for?
no, that was it.
Wow.
So that was, but it was basically the government disarmed the people who were having the farmers, who used it for pest control. Everyone was basically disarmed, and these are the good guys with firearms licenses and often very highly vetted, because we are there with the police. We are shooting competitions. We are going, in national tournaments and stuff like that. So.
I understand. So my knee-jerk reaction is,
absolutely.
There's always a flip side.
That's right. So it's interesting. Having said that, she took leadership. I might disagree with that, but she took leadership, and I have to give that to her. Mm-hmm. And I didn't see it then. I was pissed off, and like many of my friends who were really deflated, and we were grieving for the loss of our hobby, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so there was that. But then she took the same leadership when it came to COVID-19. And with that, she has saved thousands and thousands of people's lives. And I cannot say anything against it. Mm-hmm. It is. I'm proud to be a New Zealander. I'm proud to be under this government. And whatever I disagree with in the past, the leadership needs to be lauded for what it was.
Right.
So absolutely. So I agree with you.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that. I hope you guys get back to. Is there a chance you'll ever get back to where the clubs will be able to keep the armaments locked away?
I'm not sure.
Because I think that's Canada has a similar legislation. There's somewhere between this disarmament and the states, so they have a real strict transport and all.
I think we're getting sidetracked into a different topic there. No, don't be sorry. I was just saying it is, I think the important bit is there will always be things that you disagree with. And in your country at the moment, it is people disagree with, I have to wear a mask, that is an infringement of my freedom, versus people who don't like the guns. And it is everyone has got his own pet thing that he is worried about and fighting about. And I think there is a saying that we should just repeat again and again and again to each of us. And the saying is, your rights and at the tip of my nose. If you can fight for your rights, that's absolutely fine. But hang on here. If you say it is my right not to wear a mask, and you kill me and my grandfather because you gave me COVID, and I get a little bit sick, but I kill my grandfather because he dies of COVID, well, that's actually makes you a murderer, doesn't it? So let's be clear about that. And it's about the consequences of one's actions that we all should take a little bit closer look at. It is so easy to get, I'm offended, or I feel so strongly about that. It's only me who is right. Everyone else is wrong. Really?
Yeah.
Really. No, I hope you guys get soon a better leadership. And I hope some common sense will finally prevail in the United States. I think it's far too late for you to do anything about it. I think you will kill a generation.
Well, they're saying that the contact tracing is basically rendered useless in a number of areas now. So
in Florida, for example, I saw the same information. So
but the governor's insisting on the kids go back to school at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
August, we're starting next month. We're going back to school. Yeah, that's
right. Cool.
So there are going to be a lot of dropouts. But we have
a 6-year-old. I mean, that he has had a good life. Come on. So let's just. We need to look after the economy. Okay, don't think that. Right. Straight back to McDonald's. Come on, share those bucks around. Come on.
Yeah.
So I'm very, 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 very sorry to hear that. But it is the only thing you can do is look at what is happening. look after yourself. That is your highest priority.
Mm-hmm.
Look after yourself first, Mark. Then look after your immediate family. And it's the zombie apocalypse out there. You can't rescue everyone, but you can look after your family, and you can touch the lives of the people immediately around you. And you can expand that bubble a bit by talking to me now here on Zoom.
Yeah, I'm doing some Zoom shows.
I was about to say,
podcasts.
That's right. Yeah. Tell us more about that, because you are a great guy. I've listened to your comedy. I like your comedy.
Thank you. Yeah.
So how can people learn more about you? How can they listen to you?
Of course, you go to my website is laughwithmarc.com, LAUGHWITHMARC. My parents couldn't spell, but I think I also have Laugh with Marc with a K, just in case. So the Laugh with Marc has a link to my, I have a dry bar comedy special, which is a new stream of clean comedy that's been popular in the States for the last several years, and most downloaded comedy, more than our Comedy Central or other comedy channels. So people can watch that for free on a tablet or a cell phone. I think it's like $1 US on a TV or laptop. And then it has links to Facebook and my Instagram. And I'm doing a comedy series, Jokes from the Jacuzzi, all summer. So every Sunday night, my time, which I guess would be Monday afternoon, your time.
Yeah.
Would be, and then I put it up on Facebook and Instagram. So that's been fun. It's different because I'm doing comedy. This is great. We get to interact, but I'll do my jokes. I'll just sit there and just do a monologue, and I won't have the feedback that I'm used to with my timing. But and then my friends get on there. Hey, Marc. Oh yeah, good to see you. Oh, I'd like to chat with you, but it's not a Facebook conversation. I'm just trying to do the jokes. So then they feel like, oh, he's kind of being rude here. So I get on there real quick. I get on there real quick afterward. Thanks for watching.
It's difficult because it's all a new world for us. It is. We don't know how to communicate, and as I get some interesting conversations happening where people just don't click onto the 16-hour time difference, or click onto the fact that my world does not surround their particular problem in their particular country, and I'm actually here where we have got our own problems or other faults. Mm-hmm. So it is what it is. We're becoming more global, and the global village becomes smaller and smaller. So it's weird. It's a completely evolving thing, and I think we all can learn from each other. And I think the problem is there are so many problems out there, and if you get focused so much on them, that you will not come up for air, because one problem after the other. And if you really look into all the problems in all parts of the world, you might as well stop there.
So that's where I'm trying to be, that balance between being informed and not being overwhelmed, because we can't. Our brain can only handle so much negativity. We're here to generate positivity, and that doesn't mean you can be Pollyanna and everything's perfect. We understand that, but we have to be a counterbalance to this craziness. So I think that's my service right now. I'm trying my best.
I was about to say that's exactly, and that's why we have got people like you there. You are the prevention of the mental health. You are the candle in the darkness, the light that shines and puts a smile on people's faces, the timeout possibility. And I so hope that we see more of you out there, that your flow of money and income gets somehow restored, because I'm sure the cruise ships, whilst they were probably not paying the best gigs ever, but it was
they were decent. Yeah,
exactly.
And there's the best food and see countries and meet people. So it was a really nice experience, and I hope it comes back. If it doesn't, I have to accept it and go on to the next phase. So it's just
have you got any plans? Do you want to give us a sneak preview of if there's already something out there in the recesses of your mind? What could you dream? Where do you see yourself in 2 years, 5 years time?
In 2 years, 5 years time? Oh, well, I hope to be living in a straw bale home on a mountain with a nice podcast, by connecting with everybody, having you on as a guest. And I really, I want to, of course, have a Netflix special. It's going to be called Innocent Bystander. That's already got my name picked out. And then
brilliant.
Then do a nice social distance tour. I was going to call it Force of Nature, but Mel Gibson's coming out with a movie called Force of Nature. So, you know what? That sounds too strong anyway. So I like Innocent Bystander.
I love it. I'm looking forward to watching it.
All right. Well, we look for that. Coming to Netflix, hopefully by 2022. And I also have a podcast, How Does That Happen? I like to interview unusual record holders and should-be record holders. I just interviewed this comedy duo in America by the name of Williams and Rhea. It's the Indian and the white guy. 52 years they've been performing since 1968. Nonstop. Wow. They're brilliant, this comedy duo. I interviewed a 62-year-old man who's a planking champion. Plank where you on your elbows.
Yeah.
8 hours, 15 minutes, 15 seconds.
Ouch.
Guinness World Record, yeah.
Ouch.
And then, so just crazy record holders. I interviewed a mom of four. Molly Schuyler has a number of eating championships, including she ate 530-something wings in 30 minutes. 5'4", 117 pounds. So that's not a mom you want to mess with. That's all I'm saying.
No, that's a force of nature.
Yes.
Oh, brilliant, Marc. Oh, thank you so much. Repeat the name of your podcast because I need to.
How Does That Happen?
How Does That Happen? I love that.
Yes.
I will listen to that and subscribe.
Yeah, and if you go to my website, to Laugh with Marc, you can also link to it there, and feel free to subscribe. And hopefully, I look forward when things settle down. I look forward. I actually had inquired about the New Zealand Comedy Festival just because I wanted to come your way. I visited it back. I worked for an airline in the 80s. I only had 5 days, so it's 2 days travel. A day and a half in Auckland and 2 days in Sydney. So yeah. I didn't really get to see too much of the country, but I've dreamed about it ever since. So I'm going to be coming to New Zealand too.
It's a bloody lovely country. So you look me up. You drop me a line and I'll give you a bit of a guided tour through the North Island. We have got some bloody good times here.
Look forward to
Marc,
it.
Thank you so much for coming onto my show. It was so lovely to talk to you and learn from you. From your story and learn that there are ways. And I loved the idea when there was an obstacle that you find a crevice underneath, or if there's a river, you find a bridge. If you know what you want to do, then you can chip away at it. And you have done so and became a comedian and put your passion into it, and now reap the rewards, and which is beautiful for you. So now, thank you so much for coming onto the show. It was an honor, and I'm humbled that you spoke to me today.
Oh, the honor is mine. Thank you so much, Stefan.
Brilliant. And you guys out there, look after yourself, make the most out of it. This is your time. However the universe throws challenges at you. Right now, you've got choices. Right now, that second here, you've chosen to listen to us. You hopefully are a bit spiritually motivated after listening to two of us yapping away here. And now you have to just think, what would be a cool thing, a really nice thing to do for yourself or for the people around you? It's as simple as that. And keep doing that and look after yourself out there. Bye.